Hello, John.
No one.
So today we're going to look at the work of Dr. Michael Egnor, a distinguished neurosurgeon with decades of experience in the operating room who has performed thousands of brain surgeries. What makes Dr. Egnor unique is that he brings together both medical science and classical philosophy to address the mystery of human consciousness. In this talk, we explore the difference between the mind and the brain, examine powerful clinical case studies, and discover why both philosophy and theology affirm that the soul is real and immortal. So the first question up is here, what is the soul? I'm just going to read you out something here and then we can move on to it. So what exactly is the soul? For many people, the word may sound mystical or vague, but in classical philosophy, especially in the writings of St Thomas Aquinas, the soul is simply the form of the body. It's what makes a living being alive. Plants have what's called a vegetative soul, which gives them growth and nutrition. Animals have a sensitive soul, which adds movement and sensation, but humans are unique. We have a rational soul. This rational soul gives us the capacity for reason, free will, moral understanding, and the abstract thought. Importantly, the soul is not a ghost inside the body. Instead, it's the very essence of who we are, the principle that gives life and identity to our human nature. So let's talk about it, John. It's a deep subject.
The soul is immortal. That's the first thing, and it's separate from the body. The neurosurgeon, Dr. Igor, he performed all these surgeries on the brain, and sometimes people that had these operations, some part of the brain was taken away, but they still had rational thought and that all the facilities that you have without having these type of operations. So that indicated a few things to this doctor who had an interest in human beings and what made them function, and he comes to the conclusion because of his occupation. Which was a very important operation, and only people dedicated in that area would be fit to do it and do it successfully. But the soul is separate from the body and it's immortal. That means it's made in the image and likeness of God. And so, therefore, when the body dies, the body decays, but the soul doesn't. So, this is the soul that if you've believe that you have a soul, then there's a way to proceed, and that is to have a religion that recognizes that there's a God, and he made the world. I think St Thomas Aquinas come out with these items that the soul is immortal, and there's various good reasons as to why that is so. And so, therefore, if you live a good life and realize that you have an immortal soul, your time on this earth is relatively short compared to eternity. So, the way to prepare for the soul so as it can enjoy the joy of heaven. There is heaven, purgatory, and hell, and the two destinations really is heaven and hell, and whatever one chooses, having recognized that a person has a soul. A lot of people don't seem to realize that because they've gone down a certain road. But when you realize that you have a soul and that you're actually taught this sometimes when you're young and in the school and so on and so forth, but it's often taught from the point of view of religion. It's never emphasized about the immortality of the soul. And the way to prepare for that, by the way, is prayer and attending to living as a decent a life as you possibly can. Having regard for the fact that you might have crosses as you're going through life. None of us escape these crosses.
Yeah, he poses the question, John, if consciousness and intellect depend entirely on brain matter, how can people with half a brain still live fully intellectual lives? Such cases exist that the human mind cannot be fully explained by the brain alone, that the soul plays a deeper role is what he's trying to say.
Yes, and that's what he's saying, and that's what he's emphasizing. And he mightn't have started off with that philosophy, But as his work progressed and he saw the evidence of what he was in, because that's a very specialized, marvelous that he pursued, and there's only a few people, a few very dedicated type of people for that particular occupation, which is very severe, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
With people depend on the neurosurgeon really being perfect. So he must have been a marvelous human being, and he is if he's still alive. But the fact that he concluded that there was a soul, he read a bit then when he discovered that. And if you're going to read the type of manuals, Doctor St Thomas Aquinas, he's a saint, and because of what he wrote and the reasons and the logical way he looked at everything, only a person that would be just blind to the truth would fail to recognize that there is a soul and there's a destiny for the soul, heaven or hell. So, depending on what way one lives, if one is doing as good as one can, living for crosses, then it's going to be all right, and you'll be happy for eternity. And this is something we have to take on faith as well as reason.
This is it. I mean, he mentions St. Thomas Aquinas, and he says that Aquinas concluded the human rational soul must be immaterial and it must survive beyond death, the death of the body. So it's nice to see a surgeon, coming into the spiritual realm because very often it's not the case.
That's right. And we were fortunate in this country that surgeons and people that were in the medical profession, at least heretofore, recognise that there's a soul, and that faith is the way to uh, make sure that your soul is reaches its natural home, which is heaven. And when you live that kind of a life and do as much good as you can, irrespective of whether it's friend or foe that you're dealing with, you've got to take everything as it comes. And it doesn't be easy sometimes, but once you do it, and here's another thing, that each day is a gift. Now, sometimes you don't hear that explained, but each day is a gift, and that's the day to live in. You might have to make plans if you're going somewhere visiting, which I intend to do, please God, tomorrow, to visit and take a journey, and in this country now, not abroad, which I've taken, of course, but in this country. And so you make plans for that and make sure that you have what you require when you're away for perhaps 4, 5, or 6 days, and make sure you have the necessary medication if you need medication. And as you march up to tree of life, you do need medication, and you
That's
want to
it.
make sure that you have it and sufficient for the duration that you might be away.
That's it. And Dr. Egnor insists that we need both faith and reason, both the discoveries of science and the wisdom of philosophy, if we want to understand who we truly are as human beings. He goes on to say that the soul sits at the intersection of these two ways of knowing. So it's a very I thought it was a very positive. I looked at his video. It's going to be in the description as well, where he talks about it himself.
Well, it is positive, and it's good to hear the way you've gone through that business of the doctor, and what the conclusions he come to. Because when you reach the conclusion that he reached by way of reason and by way of his work, it's a good discovery, and I think it helps others when they read about this and what we're doing. We're trying to hopefully pass on the good news that you have unearthed there, Oliver, and that we can share it and let people know positively that they have a soul, and to look after their welfare from that point of view, because it's eternal and you've got choices.
That's it. So we're going to move on to our next video in a few minutes. It's on St. Thomas Aquinas and the five ways. So that was a very good video, and thank you very much, Sean.
And thank you very much, Oliver, for your research on that in that area.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye now.
Bye-bye.